Love is in the air this February. And what better way to express our love than to talk about one of our favorite things, Southeast Asian indie games. In this episode, Arief goes back to nature in Coral Island, a farm life sim by Indonesian developers Stairway Games about living on a tropical island. The question is, will he fall in love with Coral Island just as much as he did Stardew Valley? Over in Rino's court, she tries her hand at love for real. This is Matchmaker Agency by Indonesian studio Niji Games and MelonCat, a management sim about matching hot singles in your town with their one true love. Are we head over heels with these Southeast Asian indies? Tune in to find out.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the 20M podcast, the show about video games and the people behind them. Welcome, my name is Arief, your host today. Wow, I almost lost the flow there, Reno. I was getting in my head about how to intro the podcast. Yeah, thanks. And who are you?
Who am I? Hello, I'm Rino. I am also on the podcast today, as I am always. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. I'm wearing the Gigabash jacket today. I've got this overly my hair is way too long. I really need to go get a haircut. So I think we were just talking about the Backstreet Boys. We were just talking.
You look like you're gonna push me into my locker and take my lunch.
That's terrible. How are you, Rita?
I'm doing fine. It's nice and warming up in Tokyo, which is great. So I feel like people are going out, being social. I'm still in my basement, but other people are, which is always great.
What's the social climate before we get to some of our main topics of the show, which include a lot of Indonesian games and the games that we've been playing? What's the climate like in Tokyo? Not actual climate, social climate. Is everybody still at home playing Persona 3 Reload? Are people gearing up for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? What's the air like in Tokyo?
I think it's Rebirth. It's all Rebirth. That's all I'm seeing on my timeline, and then also just in terms of news. So Tokyo Skytree, this very
I saw they have a collaboration, right?
Yeah, well, they didn't even announce it. I was looking for the news about it because Genshin just did theirs, or my assumption was Genshin was going to do it throughout because they didn't post the Rebirth thing. But I think Rebirth is starting from today, as of the time of us recording this. They're doing some kind of event there. The Genshin one, I didn't actually end up going, but my friends did, and apparently it was a bit lame. Just really crowded, and then they said they was doing a sky show of some kind of special video, and it was just the character demos, as in just stuff that you would see on YouTube. You just put it up on the screen up there. But I'm sure the Rebirth one will be great. I think the whole country is just waiting for that to drop.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Imagine over here the Petronas Tower is lighting up for Rebirth. I don't think that I feel like that'd be sacrilegious. Isn't Petronas Shinra in this
yeah.
In this?
The planet's dying, Petronas.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, everybody, if you haven't checked out some of our previous episodes, we just published episode 29 of the 20M podcast, which featured Persona 3, our early impressions of Persona 3 Reload, and Reno. What else did we talk about?
Covered Steam Next Fest, which mostly in your court again, I think, because you tried out a couple of games, right? You tried out Cards RPG, and you also tried out Botany Manor. Did I say that right?
Yep. Yeah, so I think that one was a really good episode, and then we've just finished up some of the reels and shorts of the Last of Us review with Najmi, which is also just a really exciting one. But yeah, so check out some of our previous episodes and some of the reviews here on the 20M podcast if you haven't already. But for those that are curious about what this week's topic is, Reno, where should we start with episode 30 of the 20M podcast?
Well, I think we finally found time to actually play games and separately and experience them again. And in particular with this episode, it's going to be a Southeast Asian focus again, which we're always really excited for. So you actually played Coral Island, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, I finally had the time to sit down and play some Coral Island, which I'm really excited about. And I don't know if this definitely isn't going to be my review, because Coral Island is one of those games where, before I describe it, it's just one of those fun games I feel like people can throw their lives into because it's a farming life sim. But I think this is going to be just general impressions, and specifically some of the notes that I was overwhelmed by in the introduction parts of the game, and some stuff that I think you would enjoy. But yeah, so I've been playing Coral Island. It's a game by Stairway Games. It's an Indonesian developer, and they launched Coral Island as a Kickstarter campaign. I don't know if you remember this, Reno, but this kind of went semi-viral because, I mean, Coral Island as a game has gone semi-viral because of the nature of its farming sim, Stardew Valley, Story of Seasons esque gameplay and I guess the vertical that it's in. But they raised like they smashed their Kickstarter goal in like a couple days, if I'm not mistaken, and just blew
Oh.
everybody out of the water when they first launched, and it just like came out of nowhere. And then since then, they've just had like such a core community where it's almost like a religious cult. Like when you talk about Coral Island, when people talk about Coral Island and play Coral Island, they're like really into it. But I guess for those that want an overview of Coral Island, it's basically it's like a life sim, mostly like a farming sim. Again, it's really reminiscent of Stardew Valley, as of like recent, I guess, farming sim comparables. Very, very much Story of Seasons. There's also kind of elements that take from different games as well. So it's in that farming sim, life sim vertical, but I feel like it has areas where it definitely elevates some aspects. But if you look at it just at the get-go, it's 3D, it's gorgeous, it's got such a serene kind of environment as well. And the story is you're somebody who's sick of the city. If I had $1 every single time a wholesome game did that to me, you know what I mean? Sick of city life, is coming to this island called Coral Island, and then you work as the local farmer as part of this ecosystem that's living in Coral Island, the island life kind of family. And you can socialize, you can crop, and you could do a lot more. So there's a lot to get into in Coral Island in terms of specifics, but again, if you're looking at gameplay here on the visual side of the podcast, I think you know exactly what kind of game this is.
It looks super cute. Like I'm just having a look at the Steam page now, and I know you're gonna get into this a bit as well. But like my first impression was like that girl, like Lily. She looks like Mulan.
Yeah,
like literally like one formula, like in a great way. Like I love the art design, like for the sprites that appear. Like I think that's really, really cool.
yeah. I mean, that's the first thing to get into as well, right? Like before talking about the gameplay, the most mind-blowing thing about Coral Island is its character design. And I think when I originally was following the game, like before launch, I was like, oh my God, this looks so much like Disney concept art. Like they legitimately look like 2D Disney like sprites, you know what I mean? Like the concept art before they go into full animation because they were static, right? And then I looked it up, and like, yeah, the artist from Coral Island, I think has a pretty big following on social because they're a really prolific digital artist. But I believe that they have served clients like Disney and DreamWorks in the past as well. So you get that caliber of an artist kind of contributing to this gorgeous of a game, and it totally looks like it's has that stack, that level of animation quality, or that level of like character or art direction, right? In a game, again, that's from Indonesia. Not trying to put down like the Indonesian ecosystem, but like that's exactly why I think like we tend to underestimate Southeast Asian games. Like, hey, if you look in the right lens, there's some amazing games here in Southeast Asia that are of a caliber just like everywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then like the other thing I always look for when I look at live sim kind of farming games, I'm like, what does the cow look like? Is it cute? I think the cow has to be that like the cow has to be cute. Like I'm a Story of Seasons person, and the Story of Seasons like cows are just like S tier, so they gotta be on that level. So are the cows cute, Arief?
You know, I've never heard this ever before. This is not a conversation we've ever had. Like, why do you do this?
The cows are everything. They're like they're the most, like when you think of farm animals, the first animal has to be cow. Before sheep, before pig, it's cow, right?
Sure.
Right.
Cow's
So,
cute.
cow's cute.
Cow's cute. But
All
like,
right. I'm sold.
no, it's just like the animal like landscape is also just like really fun. And I don't know, I think for me what's different, and I think like recently some other sims have gone into this 3D route as well, or I don't know, because like it's quite interesting, right? Because I feel like the Story of Seasons kind of 3D route is like still chibi. They're very like the proportions a little bit different, it's kind of cuter. Like Coral Island, for the most part, they're a little bit more normal proportion. I don't know how else to describe this. Like, do you know what I mean? When like other games are like 2D sprites. So I feel like that adds another level of appreciation of something that's a little bit different. Like Coral Island is compared to like some other game.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. Cows are cute, but you know, how do you not say like everybody else is cute? Like it's hilarious. I think I saw a video ages ago. It's like I want to date everybody in Coral Island, and like I played like the first couple hours. I'm like, I do want to date everybody in Coral Island. Like everybody's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, the other thing that I feel like we've kind of glossed over a little bit is the fact that you can explore underwater, right? Which is something that games like Story of Seasons they don't have that.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting one where it's like, you know, what Coral Island offers that some other typical, very famous farming sim, life sim games don't offer. And one of the aspects that I think is really interesting is actually, yeah, the underwater stuff is. I haven't gotten to that part, but I understand that there is. I think there's also maybe some mystical elements. I think that's also pretty par for the course for some of these games. But there seems to be also a focus on island conservation and environmental conservation as well, right? So I'll just give you an example. Like this is how maybe how Coral Island might be different from my favorite farming sim game of all time, Stardew Valley, where like you go out and the first task is to clean your flipping backyard to start growing your crops, right? And as per usual, you bring out the axe, you chop down the tree, pop, and then like you get all the like wood, and then I was like, all right, dude, I'll do the little stone, kapah, 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 and then you get a and then you like do all the grass, the overgrown grass, and then there's this one thing that I was like, how do I get, what is this? How do I get rid of that? Is that stone? It's trash bags. It's pollution.
Oh.
So it's like, okay, I see where they're going with this, where it's like, especially, when you talk about the thematic landscape of being on an island, I think they're probably going to go deeper with this, and I believe they do, but it's one of those aspects where I think there are elements of island conservation, environmental protection that they want to say through this game, which I think I'm really excited for that specific narrative of what they're trying to say on that line.
That's awesome. I feel like it's almost like a choose your own adventure, and then with the Disney element to it, it's like you can be your own Disney character, it feels like. Self-insert.
Self-insert. I want to marry Mulan, please. Yeah. But I mean, on the note of this, like, maybe non-Southeast Asian versus Southeast Asian kind of like wavelength, right? Rino, let me tell you, this is like one of the reasons why I have fallen in love with Southeast Asian games. And it's just a reminder of why I love our regional ecosystem so much and games coming out from the region. But you first boot up Coral Island, and it is without a doubt Southeast Asian music. Like, it's not overt as in like, you're not hearing the gamelan or like something like crazy that's like hyper local, but just in the way that it does its melody, it's anybody who is from this region will find familiar melodies, tones, and instruments in its opening music. And to me, that got me a little bit emotional. I'm like, that's exactly what we talk about over the past couple of years, not just on this podcast, but your and I's relative respective careers in the games industry. It's like, how do you introduce culture in the video games medium from a Southeast Asian perspective without it overtly being Southeast Asian? That's exactly how you do it. It's for Southeast Asians, but even for those that don't, they get exposed to that kind of stuff. So I just want to commend the Stairway team. Like, that opening was awesome. And the second thing, Reno, is that like the character model flipping looks like me, man. I know this is such a small, stupid like bit where you can create your own models, and when you spend long enough, you can totally do it. But it's just so hilarious how like the archetypal like characters look like people around me. You know what I mean? And that's your base character that you have to work off of. It's not your like typical, I know Fortnite has done a lot of strides actually in diversity, but your typical Fortnite poster boy. And it's like, oh, that's how you're gonna be your avatar for the next like 200 hours as you play. And then the last thing on this note is that, the person that you are greeted by is undeniably an Indonesian. Like, as in in the way that he dresses, his name, like his mannerisms. Like, it's such a funny scenario where I just felt like I am literally on an Indonesian island right now that is so hospitable, but it feels so commonplace. It feels so safe. So when you talk about like beautiful indie games, I know where, for those that might not be from Southeast Asia, for those that might not be from Indonesia, like, I'm not Indonesian, right? But there's that sense of familiarity that I'm just so glad this game is a pretty big deal. Like, a lot of people have been talking about the game all over the globe, but it's injecting parts of our regional culture, I guess specifically Indian culture, in it in a way that's so normal, and it's not overt, but it just makes it so beautiful. Like, I'm just so happy this game was made by an Indonesian.
Is this like the anti-Bali game? It's like, what if people who came to Indonesia in Asian islands didn't just open up a yoga studio, but actually farmed and cultivated land?
Honestly, like, we should genuinely get the devs on to get their takes on it.
That's really cool. Yeah, it looks exciting. I really want to get into it now. Love my farming sim.
Yeah. And I will say, I guess the caveat here is that one of the last notes on Coral Island is that it is obscenely similar to Stardew Valley. And again, I've logged hundreds of hours in Stardew Valley. I know that place like the back of my hand. Right? Like, give me, how many times have I married Leah? Every playthrough, right? Like, I love that game. it's kind of interesting when we talk about, and I want to bring up a really interesting discussion, maybe Reno, that I'd love to get your takes on, right? But there are some games in the indie ecosystem that obviously follow models of successful games. And I want to bring up two examples. I think the first one is Stardew, like this game in Stardew Valley, where the house placement, the map placement, everything is actually very similar to Stardew, and almost like scarily so. Like I was afraid, it's like, oh, is this just another Stardew clone, but packaged in a way that is slightly different, so that's why it's blowing up. And so far, I feel half of that. Where again, like I'm very early into the game, and I've yet to experience like maybe some of the parts where it branches. But it just like I don't know. I just think it's like a fascinating one. Where it's like, how do you follow something that is so successful and make a game that is similar to that, whilst also doing your own thing? But right now, I feel like there are an insane amount of similarities that I was walking through the motions as if I was playing another Stardew playthrough, except it was a modded version, which is kind of weird. But what I'm excited about is that it does seem like they are offering more than what Stardew offered me in terms of a mechanic standpoint, from a visual standpoint, and like I'm excited to see where it goes, but this is something I'm always going to keep at the back of my mind. And the last example that like, I don't know if we talked about here on the podcast, but there's another game called, I think, Bow, that's being made in Thailand. And it looks so much like Hollow Knight. And even in its movesets and even in its like movements and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just, again, not knocking either game in any way, shape, or form. I just think it's an interesting discussion of like how indie games emulate like other successful games. And being a bit more optimistic of like what differences they, but it just really reminded me of like Bow and Hollow Knight, and I was playing Coral Island and thinking about Stardew Valley.
I mean, like I haven't played Coral Island, so I'll have to like reserve my judgment until then. But when I look at the screenshots, they also look a lot like Story of Seasons. So I also am just like wondering if like there's only so many ways they can lay out like the farm, like how a farm looks like when you start off. Honestly, the cows actually look very similar as well. And then the 3x3 grid of like how you plant your crops as well. That's also something very like Story of Seasons. So I guess it is just like how they can take the genre, they can take like these core base mechanics and make it different. And I think like having the underwater exploration thing is really, really cool. And the design as well, like for I think I've gone on record to say this, right? Like a lot for me with playing these games where you have to like build relationships with characters, I have to like the character, like personality wise and also visually. So I think visuals are like a huge thing. Like I like in the case of like Stardew Valley, like I haven't picked it up just because I don't like the pixel art style. So I feel like design is everything for games like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Very
well,
fun.
I'm gonna play more Coral Island, and support the as if the Indonesian games ecosystem needs support. Like that, Coral Island is probably one of the biggest Indonesian games like to be honest. So I'm just oh, and just the caveat, the codes were provided by Stairway Games as well. So thanks Stairway for the review codes. But we're going to be continuing to play that title and probably give you updates throughout the 20M journey.
Yeah, let us know when you get married to some lucky person in Coral Island.
I will try to marry everybody. This island is mine.
Yeah.
I love them. I spent like 2 conversations with somebody. It's like married. Yeah, but Reno, on the note of Southeast Asian games, on the note of Indonesian games, happy post Valentine's.
And on the note of marrying people, I suppose as well. I have been playing another indie Indonesian game, and it's called Matchmaker Agency by, I believe, Niji Games and MelonCat. So yeah, it's I mean, I think the title kind of explains it all, but I love the catchphrase that the devs have used in their opening line on Steam, which is hot singles near your area and they're ready to date, but no, not you. So it's like that. It's like early 2000s, like, you've got that like spam little like alert pop up that's like an ad, it's like hot singles like next door or something. But like the whole premise for this game is that you're a matchmaker, so you're not actually getting matched with anyone. You're helping people in your city, in your town, get together. And also similar tropes in this kind of game as well, where it's a matchmaking agency or dating agency that you inherited from your grandparents. I'm just I can't imagine my grandparents.
The dynasty, man.
Yeah.
It's a arcade. It's like a family business that's been running for generations.
Pretty much.
So much money.
So then I think you come back there, and it's been some time the office, but you've managed to come in, I think, just like 3 days or a very short amount of time before the lease for the place and goes up, and then the landlord has been like waiting all these years so he can like sell the freaking building. And then you come back and he's like super angry. He's like, "Oh, you got to pay me like this much money every month or something like that." So then you're there and you're like, "Oh god, like I've got to start earning money." So again, like very similar to a lot of these games where like, you know, you inherit something from someone and you're on a bit of a clock to like kind of build something from nothing, right? And in the matchmaker agency, for some reason, you have a cat that like you have a talking cat, like just because. So he just acts as like your guide through it. He's like, "Oh, I was here with your grandparents. I'm like your grandmother's familiar or something. I will teach you how to like match people and make them fall in love." It's just like whatever. Like I'm just gonna roll with this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I feel like it's just one of those like it's so wacky. It's such a just let's just do it. You know,
Yeah,
let's do it.
pretty
But
much.
yeah, but I mean, this one was exciting because I feel like they released it on Valentine's or the day after Valentine's, if I'm not mistaken, and it's such a perfect timing like window for that. But it also like, I mean, walk me through a little bit of the gameplay as well, Reno, because I have yet to jump into this one, but it just looks really clean, crisp, and I don't know, it's like it just like the visuals look really polished. But I'm curious how like the gameplay actually fares.
Yeah, so it did launch on Valentine's Day, which is perfect for me because that's what I spent my Valentine's Day doing, just playing it at night, matching fictional characters together. So you start off, you're in the agency. The main sort of screen is just like you at your desk, and you've got like a phone, you've got your client folder, and then you've got like an iPad where you can buy stuff. But basically, you have clients who kind of you're walking clients, or you can like use your phone to do various like marketing tasks. So it might just be like go out on the street and like find customers, which sounds like the funniest thing, just like pulling people in, or like you can spend a bit of money and you can get flyers, you can like put an ad in radio. So these are all just like marketing costs, and that's how you can get more clients in. So when they come in, depending, I guess, like in the beginning, the first few clients come in and they have like a full profile built out. So it says like what they aspire, what they like, what they dislike, and so on. And so the idea is that you've got them in your portfolio, and then someone else might come along, and then you try and see whether they're compatible or not. And then later on, you'll get clients who don't have everything filled out, so you don't know them that well, so you're able to interview them. And then again, the way you interview them, like how comfortable you make them feel and how much you guys gel, also then impacts how much information they give by themselves. Because I definitely had a couple awkward interviews where they just like hated me, and then like I go back to their profile and I still don't know anything about them. Like, oh. So and I guess the way it works, it's like you're kind of on a clock, right? So like a guy comes in on like week 1, and then if you haven't kind of like tried to match him by like week 3 or week 4, like his emoji just kind of gets like angrier or sadder and sadder. So you're kind of having to balance like getting more clients in. You can reject them as well. So then maybe you want to be strategic and be like, oh, does this person kind of fit my portfolio of my current clients? And then you have to spend time interviewing them because you're on like a weekly calendar. So if you spend this week interviewing them, then you might not spend time matching anyone, and then like time goes on, and then like you just have to. It's like a management sim in that sense.
Yeah, that sounds really funny. But also like fun and funny at the same time. But like I love like just not to compare, not to say that these games are very similar, right? But it's like I loved that kind of like sim management aspect of my lovely wife. Yes, my lovely wife. And another game made in Indonesia by Game Changer Studio. But like yeah, there's just so much to this mechanic of like managing things and other people. Maybe we're just like corporate slaves, you know. It's like we just love that, just get a high off of that aspect. But yeah, this sounds really interesting. I mean, like what else to this game? Like where were there any early impressions or anything that found things that surprised you? Or I must know about Matchmaker before I make the game or not.
So early on, like I would look at the two. So I have like you can lock one client in and then like use the other side of the screen to just like scroll through the rest, and then you can kind of like compare them. So I would be like reading and like, okay, he hates immature, and I'm like, okay, does it say mature here? Or like loves basketball, is like, does it say basketball here? And then after a while, like there were so many variances in what they liked and disliked. Sometimes it would be like loves gamers, you know, like it would just be like it wouldn't even just be like an attribute or like whether they like a hobby. It could be whether they like certain types of people. One was like loves like I think it was like dynasty families, like families that came from money, things like that.
Yeah.
So I was like trying to compare, and I was like, oh, I don't really, you know what? Like if I was a real matchmaker, I would just go by gut feel. So that's what I started doing. I would just find them. As long as they were the same sexual orientation, I would just be like, oh, I think you guys could hit it off, and then you just like match them. And so then I think slightly a bit after the tutorial, the cat tells you like, oh, when they go on a date, you actually have these like superpowers where you can like, I don't know, like leave your soul and like go follow them to their date. And then there's like 5 events throughout the day, and you can kind of nudge them towards different activities. So it'll be, say, a date with like Tom and Larry, and then it would be like, oh, Larry tripped, what would you do? And then be like, it gives you like 4 options that Tom could do, and then you can like, basically nudging Tom like, hey, I think you should, go help him out. Hey, I think you should laugh at him. And so again, that as well, as you do them, you have the little character sprites in the bottom, and they kind of like indicate whether that was like the right or wrong things. Like sometimes there'll be like a sweat bead, sometimes there'll be like a smiley face. And so a lot of the times I would just be like, I don't really know what is appropriate in this scenario. I would just do what like a normal human being would do, help them out. If there's an awkward silence, try and fill it up, like things that I think I would do on a date. But sometimes like they would still get angry. I'd be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I actually know how to play this game, but I will say I own, out of the 25, I think I matched 25 couples, only one failed. Okay, so I think I'm pretty good at this.
My biggest congratulations, Reno. God bless you doing the Lord's work out here. Make sure people find love. What happened with that one couple? Like, what would you just like not care about?
I
them,
don't know
or,
what
like...
happened. Okay, I do know what happened. Like, so I stopped reading like a long time ago at this point. I'm just like, again, just matching straight people together and like non-straight people together, and then doing the best I could during the day. And I guess this is the one time where the game was just like, look, this is really not gonna work. We're at like ultra easy mode at this point. Everyone is like super accommodating, but no, this will not work.
You're just playing with people's lives here. It's like you don't actually care about finding love. It's like, how do I maximize my profits? Like, get to the next client. It's terrible.
There's a bit of a story progression though. So a lot of the clients, I think they're just kind of like NPC built, so like a bit like kind of just put together based on like the game's algorithm. But there's a couple of like character stories. So there's a guy who comes in, who's like a marketing guru, and he's like, oh, I'll help you with your marketing if you match me for free. And you kind of follow his progression. Like the first date, it goes well, but then he comes back later saying like, oh, actually it didn't go well, like after that. And then you like match him again. There's another guy who's like this super alpha bro who's like a gamer or a streamer or something. And he's like, oh, I'm just here for like the hot girls or something. But then as you match him and it doesn't work out, he kind of becomes more and more humble. It's like, oh, I do actually want to meet someone. That's why I'm here, and that's why I'm not just out there playing with women. So there's that one. And then the latest one I came across, it was interesting. Like, I do feel like the devs are trying to dive a bit deeper in the narrative. So a guy came and he said, hey, I'm looking to meet someone. I'm not out yet. I hope you understand what that means. And was like, in terms of the partner I'm looking for, I hope they can understand like the situation in my family. And he kind of went into a bit of detail, which I thought was really interesting. And then I tried to be a bit better with matching this time. And it seemed to work out well. So I don't know if it went badly, if it will go a different path, maybe that would have happened. But I do, appreciate that effort where it's not just a meme. It's not just trying to be a meme. Like they are trying to address like maybe specific issues that people growing up in South Asia might have trouble with.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, again, I love that they maybe injected that type of, or whatever else is in the game related to that. Because I was maybe just afraid that it was a very simple, like just like mechanic oriented kind of game. But I how much of a sucker I am for narrative, and sucker I am for like just these bits, right, to tell you a little bit more about what the developers want to say with the subject matter that they play with. So I'm just a big fan of that. I'm really glad that type of stuff is approached.
I do see the attempt, and I do see like in terms of the range of like people. So as far as I've seen, you've got straight people, you've got gay people, and you've got like bisexual characters, and you can't match people who are not of the same orientation. Like the game just doesn't allow you to do that. So I guess there is some effort to do that, and it is interesting. Like, I mean, this kind of topic, like, obviously a game like Matchmaker is supposed to be fun and interesting, but whether you want to go deeper and try to explore like sexuality and what relationships really are, I think there's always that kind of opportunity. I don't know if the game goes that deep because I'm only a couple hours in, but I appreciate, I guess, the attempt to tell more diverse stories instead of just your typical, straight characters.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Do you have any like final thoughts on Matchmaker Agency?
It's quite serene, I suppose. Like again, like I feel like the stakes are very low. I don't know if I chose just like a super easy setting, but it's just like, you match people, you go on a date, and then most 99% chance they'll get along, and then like you watch your money go up, then you can like buy certain things to like furnish your space and like help you earn more profit later on. So it's just because you just get into that cycle of just like grinding for money, spending it, grinding for money, spending it. And I think it's like a nice chill way to spend an afternoon.
I'm excited.
Excited to meet hot singles in your area.
Yeah, I'm excited to set people up and then have the ego boost. I did that. That was because of me. You guys don't actually like each other that much. Just like present. Yeah, no, I'm really excited. And I mean, like maybe on the larger note here is like, I'm just really glad that we're using this time on the podcast to talk about this is kind of like a return to form, right, for us here, where it's like, yes, we've covered, the big games. Our last couple of reviews were like Last of Us and Sega, and like, with Persona and all that kind of stuff. And, we did do a little bit of Steam Next Fest. And, we're really thankful for our partners that are out there on the AAA side and on the larger side. But I feel like, you and I genuinely have passion for independent games, and let alone independent games here in the region. So I'm just glad that we're spending our time like going through this. And this is my just a usual plug and the usual shtick to say like, hey, if you're listening to the 20am podcast and you're either from the region here in Southeast Asia or not from the region here in Southeast Asia, go check out some independent games from the region, man. And I know like that's the bit that I do and like try to treat that in a comedic way. But I also just want to note that like, I think there was a government official that did a studio visit to Mojang Studio last week as well. And I'm assuming it's because of their success at the Game Awards for being nominated for Games for Impact over there. And that's like the first Indonesian game that was nominated at the Game Awards, right? And so I just feel like we're having a moment here in Southeast Asia. I think like we're in the thick of it. And I also like just want to acknowledge that again, there are so many great games that are coming from the region. There might be some that are your cup of tea, and there might be some that aren't. But the best thing about it is that like we have options now. The fact that we're talking about a farming sim Southeast like Indonesian game and then a matchmaking dating sim like Indonesian game is just wild to me. Like that we have that kind of diversity. So I don't know. I'm personally having a moment where I'm just like so happy right now.
Yeah, I think there are two very diverse games, both from Indonesia, both are different aesthetic, but like, they're both really cool. Really excited for that.
Well, Rino, what's going on with you in this upcoming week? What do we have to look forward to? You looked like you had like an existential crisis. Like, oh my god, like
what is happening next week? It's like did I forget your birthday or like what's going?
No, I mean, I'll rattle off by saying that like the stuff it is sort of antithetical to what I just said, right? But like I haven't played the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo yet, and I really want to get to it. So that's like on my list. I also really want to get through Persona 3 Reload a little bit more, play more Coral Island. Like the games are stacking up this year, and I'm really happy for the industry. But man, there's like so much to look forward to. But I don't know what I'm going to tackle first. What about you?
There's so much that I need to play. Like I'm really sad that I kind of basically missed out on Steam Next Fest. I do see like a couple of the demos, like the devs have like graciously just like extended their time, which I think is also a good like marketing strategy for people like people like me who didn't get the time. So I'm gonna like go through Steam, see what other games I can play. I think that's on my list.
Yeah, I think it's like to me just on like the strategy side of things, it's like it's so smart because at that point all the YouTube videos will go up of like 10 best games of Steam Next Fest and it's already over. But then if you could go back and find those games that are still on demo, like you can go play it. Because I remember I did a couple of game demos like last year outside of Steam Next. Again, play some independent games.
Yes.
Well, with that said, Rino, any parting words for the 20am podcast? Listen.
Play games, have fun, live your life, follow your dreams, get matchmade by me. You know what I do, just one tiny shout out to the devs who made Matchmaker Agency, like Niji Games and MelonCat. Have you thought of a sequel called like Divorce Agency? Because I think I would be really good at that too.
That would be hilarious. Like it's a flip on the genre.
Just same game, just rewrite the characters, make them all maybe angry, depressed, sad, and then make the office look really run down and crappy, just like the inverse. This is great advice.
Somebody has had to pitch that game before, right? Like somebody has had to do that. Let's start our own game dev studio and just like just get through it. Well, that's everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, it'd mean the world to us if you hit that subscribe button. We've been being a lot more consistent with our content. Really excited to share more games, both on the AAA side and the independent side, with all of y'all. And last week, just as a quick recap, Reno, what did we do last week?
Last week we covered Persona 3 Reload, and we talked about some of the games you played on Steam Next Fest. So definitely check the episode out. It's fun.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody. This was
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care.